Live from the 607 is the ODPH Entertainment Edition, where we're talking movies, comics, TV, and more. Why don't you join in the conversation? Hashtag ODPH, because here we go. And welcome to another edition of the ODPH Entertainment Edition. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to discuss, so let's waste no more time. Hashtag ODPHEE if you want to join in the conversation on social media. The biggest news story of the week wasn't a movie, wasn't a TV show, wasn't a comic book.
Nope.
It was a video game.
Uh-huh.
Now, Pat has had this game circled on his calendar. Dare I say, is it more important than Kingdom Hearts 3?
It's up there. I'll tell you what, it's up there. Kingdom Hearts 3 for me, still number one. Like I said, I've been waiting 13 years for that darn thing. So Kingdom Hearts 3, still number one. Red Dead Redemption 2, close second.
I gotta say, I know a little bit more about Red Dead Redemption, but I'm not like a super fan. I mean, like I say, if it's not Injustice 2, I really don't pay attention too much.
You're missing out with the first one.
Well, why don't you break it down for me? Why is this game so important? What it's about? Give us the whole information here,
I've been saying to people for a while since this got announced that it shocked the world that, you know, this is coming out. The original Red Dead Redemption came out back in 2010 and is one of, if not the most critically acclaimed games of all time. You look up the Metacritic score, it's got a 95 Metacritic score.
Wow. Which,
for people who don't know quite how Metacritic score works, it takes all the reviews, the professional reviews online, so your IGNs, your Nerdists, your Xbox Magazine or what have you, and it takes those scores and it weights it and averages it, and that's how you get your score. So 95 is incredibly high. If you get anywhere north of 90, you're looking good.
Okay.
So it's one of the best games of all time. It's just, there's something about it that, like, the thing you often hear used to describe it is it's Grand Theft Auto in the Wild West.
Okay.
And while that's true, there's something deeper to it because it's a lawless frontier. Red Dead Redemption 1 takes place at like the turn of the century, right after the 1900s. And it follows Red Dead Revolver, but you really didn't need to play Red Dead Revolver on PlayStation 2 or Xbox to get Red Dead Redemption. It takes place right at the turn of the century, right when, the lawlessness of the Wild West is kind of coming to an end. And, the modern age, with the steamboats and the freight trains and all that are kind of like the East is kind of making its way.
Kind of like the Industrial Revolution type deal?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
So, and you look at it, and if you look at a site called howlongtobeat.com, where they take people who kind of put in their how long it took them to beat the game, an average person just to beat the main story is 18 hours.
Wow.
That's just if you're average, you're just doing nothing but the main story. Leisurely, it'll take you, according to 391 people polled, leisurely it'll take you about 28 hours. Now, if you do the main story plus some side missions in the game, which there are some side missions, they're called Strangers and something else. I forget what the name is. But it's essentially, you'll see a question mark on the map. You'll go to do it. Usually it'll be a mission. You got to go somewhere. You got to take care of something. And then you come back and you get your reward. If you do the main stories plus extras, average will take you just over 28 hours. This according to 439 people polled. Leisurely, it'll take you, and this is about what I've done in my 4 or 5 playthroughs, over 54 hours.
Okay.
Which is
man, that's a long time.
Now, if you're one of those completionists who you got to get everything done, you want 100% it, you want to look at that and go, I completed it. Average will take you, and this is according to 136 people, average is just over 48 hours.
Okay, so like for 2 days worth, just to sum it up, so 2 days worth will probably get you everything you need to do with the game.
2 days straight.
Okay, 2 days straight, no break.
This is like in-game time, Now, leisurely, it'll take you just shy of 86 hours.
So this is a very big investment of your schedule to devote to completing the game in every facet of it.
Right. It's a detailed game. It's a deep game. There's a lot to it. There's bounties you can collect. There's a newspaper in the game that changes I think it's after every story mission you go through, where you go to one of the main towns and there'll be a thing popping up on your mini map. It'll show the newspapers, and you go up and the icon will say buy newspaper, and then it'll say new in parentheses, and the newspaper changes after every main story mission, and it's fun to read through those because there will be little hints at something coming down the line. At one point in the story, you go into Mexico and deal with like a revolution uprising in Mexico. If you get one of these papers and you read kind of the clippings or the news articles in the newspaper, at one point before you go to Mexico, you get a hint that something's going on in Mexico, that there's an uprising in Mexico before you even know it. I mean, I bring up Mexico. Google or go to YouTube and look up the scene where he goes in where you ride into Mexico. It's one of the most gorgeous scenes in gaming history that a lot of people agree.
Well, the game looks very detailed.
Yes.
Like in comparison to some other games you'll see, just the emphasis on just making it as realistic as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And just to see how much time is spent into it, you got to imagine it's going to just pay off to the player as they're going through the game.
Oh, no, yeah. The studio that's making this is the same one that works on the Grand Theft Auto series. It's the same studio, because there's a couple of different Rockstar. There's Rockstar Games itself, and then there's studios. So this studio is the same one that works on the Grand Theft Auto series. And if you know anything from the Grand Theft Auto series, they don't do anything half you know what.
Yeah.
I mean, the Grand Theft Auto 5 is one of the more detailed games I've seen, so much so to the point that if you're driving in the game in Grand Theft Auto 5 and you go to make a turn, if you go into the first person's perspective, you will see the turn signal on the dashboard.
For me, that's just insane.
So they get stupid detailed. They also don't rush these things, and they don't rush through it. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 5 alone was in development for like 5 years before they put this thing out. There's talk, and that nobody's quite sure, nobody can quite pin it down. A lot of people speculate Red Dead Redemption 2 has been in the works for like 8 years.
It has to be, because for the amount of detail and the attention to detail that is involved with this game, you don't do it overnight.
No, and some of the radical changes they're making with the game and stuff they're adding to it and building off of the original one is just... from the one gameplay trailer they put out alone, which they're going to put out another one, I would imagine there's probably going to be a third. But
yeah, there usually is.
Just from this one gameplay trailer alone astounds me. Now, one of the things in the original game was, you could have these confrontations with people where you could bump into them or something, or there were these like random events in the game where you had a couple options. You could walk away and let it play out, or you could do like kind of the noble thing and stop the situation. I remember one that you'd ride into a town, and there, of course it's the Old West, so they're women of the night, we'll call them. There's a guy who's a little drunk and he's a little angry that, she's not listening to him. So he goes to try and attack her. You can either let it play out, or you can go and lasso the guy and hog time to stop it.
Okay.
So they take situations like that where before it's just, okay, you got option A, you got option B. Now they've got options, if you watch in the gameplay trailer, where you can escalate the confrontation, you can talk them down, or you can simply walk away.
And that's just so unique for storytelling, because it's almost like the old book series Choose Your Own Adventure.
Yes.
That you really write your own story. And for the games to really have this much memory and just give you this much leeway to really make the experience your own, I mean, it's just telling how far video games have come.
It's almost akin to what the Telltale games have been, for like Walking Dead, Guardians of the Galaxy, Batman, where like those are built off of your choices, and you see in those games where like you make a choice, you get option A, option B in those games, and it goes, oh, this person will remember that.
Oh yeah, I mean, without going spoiler too much, is the first Walking Dead game, they tie in something that happened. I mean, they broke it down into 5 series. They tie something that you did in episode 2 to the end.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to see how detailed oriented it is. I mean, for me, I've always been a big fan of like writing and storytelling. So like I get more of an interaction kick out of that than I would just, your average game that is just, kind of one and done. Like this is so thought detailed.
Right.
And I know I keep stressing the word detail in this, but if you look at the game and you look at how it's done for the breakdown of each character, and now they've evolved this to giving you more options, I'm not saying it's like a VR type deal, because it isn't, but it's getting very close to where every action you're doing is becoming more human.
Yeah.
So to speak, that you're not just given your choice A, choice B. There is the kind of gray area that you can use for your character and wherever you want to go with that direction.
Right. It's kind of like I've been playing the game The Witcher 3 lately, and I think I'm getting towards the end of it, but I'm getting to a point where like I've got to bring some people together for a big fight that they need to help out. And I got a trophy the other day because I recruited all possible people to help you out in the end game. So like I made the right choices during the game to help those people out so that they agreed with me, they liked me, they were willing to help me out. That's the awesome thing with these games. I mean, there's one point in the gameplay trailer where, you know, the character you're playing, Arthur Morgan, is riding down, and you can make a call out to another rider, and the person playing the game calls out and he goes, "Hey, nice horse." Now, the thing with this game is it is a prequel. It does take place before Red Dead Redemption. I don't think you're going to need to have played Red Dead Redemption to get this. I think it'll add to the experience if you've played it, but I don't think by any means it's not an absolute requirement that you will have needed to have played it. Now, it was Red Dead Redemption 1 was a PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 game. The thing I do know is if you have PlayStation Now, you can, which is their game streaming service, you can play the game on there. And I do know it is backwards compatible on the Xbox One. So if you go out, you find a copy of Red Dead Redemption, which I'm sure you can find pretty easily these days, and you pop it into your Xbox One, you should be able to play it backwards compatible. And to this day, like I said, Red Dead Redemption 1 came out 2010, so it's, 8 years later. It is still one of the most gorgeous games you will ever see.
Yeah, you've seen it mentioned in pop culture. I mean, I've seen it referenced a couple times on Big Bang Theory, and I think there's one point they even show Sheldon playing it on the show. I mean, that's just kind of like a minor aspect of just how far this game reaches. And then looking at this trailer, I mean, obviously this trailer lived up to your expectations.
Oh, absolutely.
That is now going to have that other effect. So where is it going to spread to from here? Is it going to be the next thing that inspires the next video game generation? I would have to say so, because if you look at how 2010 Red Dead Redemption came out, and look at all the games that came after, where if you want to throw something like Skyrim, if you want to throw something like, as we're saying, the Telltale games with The Walking Dead.
Right.
You got to say that maybe this is the benchmark, that this really kind of kick-started that whole, and I don't want to keep using choose your own adventure, but you're more, first-person story-driven games, I guess.
I'll say, because there has been lately in the gaming industry this kind of discussion that gamers don't really want single-player stories anymore, that they're moving towards online multiplayers, like your Fortnites, like your PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, like your Overwatches. And yeah, to a certain degree, that's true. If that wasn't the case, then Fortnite wouldn't be the massive success it is.
Right.
But I turn and look at games like The Witcher 3, which won like 600 plus or something like that awards, Game of the Year awards. I look at games like Horizon Zero Dawn, which is in my top 3 video games of all time. I look at games like Red Dead Redemption, where to this day, you still have people picking it up and playing it for the first time and just raving about how gorgeous it is and how much fun it is.
Yeah, well, with games like this, with so much attention to detail and so much, I mean, you could definitely tell the creators are pouring everything they have into it to make it a one-of-a-kind experience, which you don't really necessarily get out of a lot of video games.
Right.
For this, it's almost like you're living your own movie, so to speak.
Yeah, it really is.
Because they just throw you in the Old West, and there's just seeing how your character just adapts to being in that time period. There's a lot of different directions you can go, and I mean, that's what helps the story. So to take it back, the story is not connected from Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2. It
probably will be, simply because the gang you're dealing with, or the gang you're running with in Red Dead Redemption 2, is the gang that ends up, spoiler alert, although it was 8 years ago, so I don't know if I really want to say spoiler alert.
You can either way.
The gang you're running with in Red Dead Redemption 2 is the gang that ends up getting taken out in Red Dead Redemption 1.
Okay.
So it'll be, that's why I say
it's a loose connection.
It's a loose connection. That's why I say it's probably not necessary to have played Red Dead Redemption 1 before you play this, but it probably wouldn't hurt.
No, to get the experience and kind of know what you're jumping into. I mean, it's something like, for me, I started with Injustice 2 before I did Injustice 1. It's a little different because, I mean, obviously it's not as detailed, but you want to kind of know the backstory before you go into a sequel and then try putting all the pieces together.
I kind of equate it to Better Call Saul. Do you need to have seen Breaking Bad before you see Better Call Saul? Nah, not necessarily, but it adds to it.
Yeah, it definitely adds to it, because in that situation, they do flashback in certain degrees to Breaking Bad, so you get more of a benefit from the story and more of a kickback to you than if you were just kind of watching it cold. Either way, it's a win-win. I think the same thing with this video game too, because for me, like I said, I have not really played enough of the first game to say, I like it or I don't. But every time I've seen it, it's just been visually stunning.
Oh yeah,
and just the amount of detail and just the little stuff it makes it so. Like I said, I don't want to say realistic, but it kind of is.
Because the thing with the first game is you can do the story, you can go through and you can blitz through the story and get through it quick. But you can also go off. There's activities or side quests. There's an activity where there's treasure hunting where you go. You're at one point while you're playing the game, you get a treasure map, and there's, I want to say it's like 12 or 13 different treasures that you got to find in the game, and they don't tell you where they are. You get a little scrap of paper that it's a drawn picture of where it is, and you've got to find it as you're playing the game. And if you find all 12 or 13 or whatever it is, if you go to use the cab system, I'll call it, in this game, you get all 12 or 13 of those. Instead of them charging you for it, oh, hey, now you can use them for free. I mean, there's stuff where, like, you know, you can go hunting and you can get the pelts and trade them in for money. You know, like I said before, there's bounty. The crazy thing with this, they were showing in the gameplay trailer, is before in Red Dead Redemption 1, you could have quote-unquote houses or places where you could stay, you could sleep to save your game and advance the time and during the day. You know, there'd be ammunition for you to pick up and what have you. You know, you could change your outfit because there were different outfits for, you know, you could wear an outfit for playing poker. I mean, there was poker in the game. You could play poker, you could play blackjack, you could play a game called Liar's Dice, you know, where you could bet money and win or lose money. You know, it was just so deep. You know, there were just random events where you'd go through. You know, they've taken that, and so they've taken the houses where you would just stay and just do this, and all of a sudden now it's a whole camp and it's a whole ecosystem of people that you have to take care of and provide for.
It's so interesting just to hear about like how detailed the story is. And like I say, I know I keep referencing everything how detailed, but it is, because if you just want to look at just a little added pieces for the storytelling.
Oh yeah.
That it just gives you that much more of an experience from it.
Right.
That, I mean, like for me, like I said, I've never really been too big into the Red Dead series. I've always been more of the comic book guy. So like I say, Injustice 2, the Batman Arkham series, but you can definitely like see the elements that are involved in that. So,
right.
You know, how it transcends and just kind of influences those games that are coming out. So for this, I mean, just overall, I think it looks amazing.
Oh yeah.
That I think it's going to be something that if you haven't played it before, you should give it a shot.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I probably will. And we'll go from there with it. But I think just overall, the package that we saw for the trailer, it looked great.
Oh, yeah.
And just how much more they're adding to it, which you just don't think, okay, you can top your first one. It's going to give it a good run for the money.
Oh, absolutely. And, of course, the game comes out October 26th on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
So let us know what you think. Hashtag ODPHEE. What's your thoughts on Red Dead Redemption 2? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince, the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition, and there's kind of a big release coming out on DVD, Blu-ray, however you watch your movies. It's been out on digital for a couple weeks now, but the biggest movie of the year thus far,
Yes.
Avengers Infinity War, is finally getting released.
I'll say this is probably one of the more anticipated movie releases I can remember, because typically when a movie comes out on Blu-ray, DVD, there's a little bit of excitement. There's a little bit, I can't wait to finally watch it, but this just seems like it's a whole other level.
Well, the fact of how far Avengers Infinity War reached, and what I mean by that is the movie, obviously, if you're a comic book fan, if you're a Marvel fan, you were going to go see the movie regardless.
I'll say I think it almost even had a similar effect that The Dark Knight had, where you knew Batman fans and comic fans were going to go see The Dark Knight, and obviously different circumstances given Heath Ledger died and there was that kind of interest there, but there was still that far-reaching outside of its norm audience for people to go see it. I feel like this was the same thing with Marvel movies. It's like, all right, these have been going for 10 years and everyone's excited to see this. I want to go see why.
Yeah, and when you went to see it, Thanos became a household villain that everybody ranging from the sports world to the entertainment world, was trying their own snap memes. And we are talking spoilers because at this point, if you haven't seen Avengers Infinity War, you can pick up the DVD, Blu-ray, however you're watching it, and join in the conversation. But
I'd say digital's been out for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, so we're going to be kind of talking some spoilers if you haven't seen the movie yet. But that being the case, I mean, Thanos has been everywhere from memes to Fortnite
to that was probably the craziest thing for me was when the creators of Fortnite put him into the game around the same time of the movie release for like a week or two.
Yeah, which is really kind of odd to see that the movie is kind of stretching out to, areas where you wouldn't consider comics reaching.
Yeah, and I'm willing to bet come Halloween this year, you're probably going to see your fair share of Thanoses for Halloween this year.
I would, in fact, say you're going to see a lot more of them at your Comic-Cons coming up. I know RoberCon for the 607 area, you might see a couple there, but definitely NYCC coming up.
I saw a great one at San Diego a couple weeks ago on Reddit, I believe it was, where a father had done a Marvel Cinematic Universe Thanos with the armor and the whole nine, and he dressed his daughter up as young Gamora.
That's awesome.
That was all sorts of cool.
That's very cool. But going back to the DVD, though, there's going to be a lot of extras on there that we see. Obviously, you're going to have your gag reel. You're going to have your audio commentary from the directors and such. And they're going to see deleted scenes. I mean, that's a given. But there also is a couple different features. They're doing like a Beyond the Battle with Wakanda and Titan. And they're doing kind of like a short, summary, I guess you would say, of Thanos.
Yeah.
And then some of the strange team-ups that you're going to see in the movie if you haven't already seen it. Just some of the interesting pairings, because they really made a point with Avengers to kind of mix and match the teams.
Right.
So it wasn't just like one group kind of hung with each other. You definitely saw the different interactions. And getting back to the whole statement of the Marvels, it's all connected. So being that, I mean, the movie was great. We've talked about it many times on the show. And is there anything that's coming out on the DVD that's really jumping at you, Pat?
I'm interested to listen to the audio commentary. I normally don't go for those, just simply because I want to watch the movie. I want to enjoy the movie. But given audio commentary, so they're going to be commenting on the movie, talking about stuff, I'm interested to hear what's on there and what they talk about and kind of if they reveal anything that, we considered doing this for the movie, but it ultimately didn't pan out.
Yeah, I would definitely want to check that out too. And especially one thing I've heard rumored, but I kind of want to actually hear if it actually was serious in discussion, was they were going to do a couple Netflix scenes and tie the Netflix universe to them.
That would have been cool.
That would have been. That was like my one gripe with the movie.
Right.
It is okay. You have your own universes on TV.
Right.
Just to even make a mention.
Right.
Not that you have to spend a lot of time on it, but you should just make at least a mention.
It's like a passing, camera flying through the city type thing.
Yeah, something like that to really show how it's really affecting all your heroes.
Because I can't imagine if an event like what was taking place in the Battle of New York at the beginning of the movie, that somebody like Matt Murdock would be, sitting on his laurels in a court case.
Yeah, or even see like Foggy Nelson walking down the street and seeing, some of the Chitauri going after him.
You'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, something like that. Just would have been a cool nod. But overall, I mean, the movie was great in its own right. And obviously, there's so much hype for Avengers 4 or whatever they're going to title it by the time it comes out, that this movie's going to tide some fans over and really kind of crank up some more interest for those that really are going through a Marvel withdrawal, I guess.
I'll say, because this is like an unprecedented time for them, because usually you get enough Marvels spaced out through the year to where you're good. You got the couple of months where like you just watched one of them, you digest it, the Blu-ray comes out, you watch the Blu-ray a couple times, you discover some stuff, and then you got the next one coming out. There's really not anything until like March or something next year.
No, March when Captain Marvel comes out.
Right, so there's a long gap.
It's going to be a long gap, and especially for DC, they're taking prime advantage of this with Aquaman and Shazam is going to come out right after Captain Marvel, so you can't really say that they're going to get jumped. But if Aquaman does well, I mean that'll shift some momentum back to DC. But obviously, when Captain Marvel comes out and whenever that first trailer finally does, then I think you're going to kind of see the MCU really generating some buzz for Avengers 4.
Oh, absolutely.
But with this, I definitely want to check the commentary out, and I definitely want to see the deleted scenes.
Oh yeah, the deleted scenes are always something to see, simply because it's fun to place them in the movie and think about what could have been or what could have come out of that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of rumors that, you're going to see some really crazy thoughts or crazy ideas that didn't make the cutting room floor.
Yeah, so there was an article that came out, or an interview that came out that the Russo brothers did with fandom, and they were talking about how Howard the Duck, which is probably the biggest reaction I've had to a bonus scene in MCU history when he showed up in Guardians 1.
Yeah.
That was a simultaneous, oh God, why?
Yeah.
But so the Russo brothers did an interview with Fandom where they talked about how Howard the Duck would have fit into the movie. They said Howard the Duck was, quote, Howard the Duck was in one draft of the script. Howard actually had a really good scene. We were going to cameo him with Hangover and Community star Ken Jeong with Howard the Duck. That was a much beloved scene by us, but it just didn't end up fitting at all. Joe Russo described the idea for the scene. Yeah, it was Peter Quill, trying to track down some information from Howard the Duck on some outlier planet and interrupting him during a poker game. Normally, I see these articles of something that could have been in a movie or was thought about being in a movie and left in the cutting room floor. I'm like, oh, that would have been cool, but I'm not upset about it. I read that one and it was like, oh my God, I want that in the movie now.
Yeah, that would have been a nice touch. And I definitely want to see the scene if it's in the DVD, which I'm assuming it is. But with those scenes, you can kind of see, like, there was so much going on with Avengers that, like, what could not have made it on the floor?
That's why.
Like,
right. That's why I think, for me, the audio commentary is going to be the most interesting thing on this Blu-ray DVD, is because you'll have scenes going on, like you look at the scene where Thor's reforging his hammer, and what could have been taught. Oh yeah, we thought about inserting so and so or such and such into the scene, but you know what? Ultimately, we thought it just didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many possibilities you can go and hearing their vision for, like, what was their original ideas for it. It's always going to be fascinating, because with the amount of heroes. Yeah. And characters just in general that they were balancing around. I mean, I thought most everybody got pretty good equal screen time.
Yeah.
I mean, another point that I didn't much care for the movie was just how long they spent remaking Thor's hammer.
Right.
But honestly, I wasn't mad about it. It was just kind of like, okay.
See, I saw that as, it didn't really bother me. I just saw that as an, okay, he lost Mjolnir, which is like, even if you're not a Marvel fan, you'll probably have at least heard the name. It's just one of those things. You know, so he loses Mjolnir. He needs something to kill Thanos. You know, this ain't just a plastic fork. You know, this ain't a plastic spoon. This is something that, like, it's important. It's big, and it's ironic that they spend so much time on it. He withstands the attack of the exploding star, whatever it is. You know, where Peter Dinklage says, you know, it's a star. It'll kill you. And he's like, only if I let it.
Yeah.
And Dinklage is like, yeah, that's called dying. You know, he survives a star, and he survives what should have killed him, and he throws it at Thanos, and, well, he should have aimed for the head.
I know, that's a run-in joke. I know there's something going around, was it Instagram or Twitter, that Chadwick Boseman was giving Chris Hemsworth a happy birthday tweet, and he said, you should have gone for the head.
Oh, Lord.
It was something really fun. But it's just nice to see how they're even keeping the movie alive now. I mean, how many months later has it been?
Right.
And we can still find something to reference from it. You know, the headshot, the snap. Yeah. I mean, there's just so much that was going on with Avengers that, I mean, it's almost taken on a life of its own.
Yeah.
Away from the MCU. And just how this epic movie transpired. And then now there's so many rumors going around for Avengers 4.
Right.
That, I mean, if you've read the Infinity Gauntlet comic, you have an idea of what might happen.
We'll say if you've read certain interviews, you have an idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, which if you've read certain of those too, sure. But it's almost, you got to really kind of dig into it and kind of make your own interpretation. I mean, for me, I do think, and yeah, I'm going to give you my unofficial ODPH guess at what they're going to do for Avengers 4. We'll see if I'm right. I do think Nebula is going to be the one that saves the universe.
Okay.
So to speak. I think Karen Gillian's character is going to really step up and have a very prominent role in this. Where they go to reset everything, it's hard to say. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff tied into the Time Stone. I think that what Doctor Strange was doing his, you know, alternate reality checks.
He was going forward in time.
Right. I think that in there he knew that, okay, we have to let Thanos win, and this is our way to make sure that we decide to come out on the top when it's all said and done.
Which is such a risky thing to do if you think about it, because any Doctor Who fan will tell you, you know, time's a bunch of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. You know, if you listen to Yoda, always in motion is the future. So Doctor Strange, yeah, he went into the future and saw, Lord knows however many futures it was. It was a large number. You know, so he knows the one way that they'll win, but therein lies the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
You know, you get one thing that is different from the future he saw, and he can control to a certain degree what was happening on Titan. He can't control what was happening in Wakanda on Earth. So if there's one thing that goes different, you know, if you know, Bucky misses a shot on somebody, if, you know, Banner misses getting one guy, if that's a pivotal thing, like, oh, you were supposed to get this one person, it's the butterfly effect.
It is, but it also goes back to the character of Doctor Strange, that he is that confident in his own abilities. I mean, obviously this was pre-learning the mystic arts,
right?
But you got a sense that maybe some of the old Doctor Strange is coming out in him.
Well, I don't know. I saw a thing on Reddit the other day where I think it was the Marvel Studios subreddit where they pointed out all of the spells he made. And they're like, they made my boy full Sorcerer Supreme. And there's now a lot of people excited for the sequel.
Oh, the sequel, when they finally unveil that, is going to be interesting. I am not sure what direction they're going to go in. I mean, obviously, the easy guess is Baron Mordo would be the main villain, but I don't think it's going to be.
Yeah, you never know.
I'm not sure, because I know it's not going to be Dormammu again, but, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I could see it being somebody like Nightmare. I could see it being somebody of the astral plane as well, or I could, see a left field guess. I mean, obviously, Doctor Doom might be around at that time. Maybe
hard to say.
Hard to say.
All I know is it's not going to be at least a couple of years before they can use the characters, simply because they've got stuff in the works, stuff getting ready to go into production. The deal's not done yet, so they can't legally touch the characters until the deal's done.
No, and it also depends on how soon they get cranking on that. I mean, I know there's been some rumblings unofficially that production is, at least pre-production is getting done.
For Doctor Strange 2, yes.
Yes. So, I mean, it's hard to say, but I mean, just generating the buzz coming back to, the story of Thanos conquering the universe with the snap of his fingers is really just telling of just how far the story is going to reach long term. I mean, this is going to be your benchmark for any shared universe moving forward.
I'll say I saw somebody's take online, and it didn't occur to me, but I had to agree with it. What the Marvel movies have done for this generation is the same thing that the Star Wars movies did for the last generation.
No, without question, because they gave you the blueprint of how to do a shared universe.
Because before it was unheard of, and now there's no way you can do that.
Oh, yeah, but Marvel was smart about it. Marvel did the right thing by having everybody in their own solo movies, so you got everybody's origin out of the way for the most part, and you really had a character base that touched any kind of fan of the movies.
Right.
Now, whether you like the real comical, Paul Rudd, Ant-Man, the serious Steve Rogers, Chris Evans, Captain America,
right,
Tony Stark, Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr., everybody has a favorite Avenger. So it kind of just gravitates that you're going to get a wide fan base checking your movie out. When you're doing that, you're bound to have a hit on your hands. And Marvel played the long game. They didn't rush anything. They didn't do where Justice League, I think, went wrong and threw a bunch of heroes into their movie and said, okay, you already know from the comics.
Right.
Well, that's great, but if you're trying to cater to the mainstream audience, there's a few people that didn't know who Aquaman really was, that didn't know who Cyborg was, that really know the Flash is Grant Gustin rather than Ezra Miller.
Right.
So when you play that into perspective, Marvel just really gave the blueprint of how to do this. Now, whether the DCU or where they're going by now, Worlds of DC,
something like
decides
that,
to go back that route, and that's going to remain to be seen. If Valiant decides to go that route with their comic projects coming out, I know Bloodshot is already in some
form of production.
Some form of production with Vin Diesel as the lead role, and then wherever characters they go with, they're going to have a blueprint to follow because Marvel has already set it. So that goes back to why this DVD is important.
This DVD is also important so that I can watch Thor showing up in Wakanda for like 30 minutes straight on loop.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, just from the fan aspect, yeah, it's such a great movie just for a comic book fan. But just overall, this movie is going to be analyzed to no end.
Oh, God, yeah.
People are still looking for Easter eggs that aren't there. People are still just going to compare, okay, when Thanos did his snap, why Thor didn't take the headshot, why did Peter Quill act the way he did?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who want to know that one.
There's so many debates that are still happening from this movie. That, I mean, you just look at the effect it's had just in a couple months. Wait till a year.
Yeah.
From the release.
Yep.
And wait till Avengers 4 comes out and just see how much this movie
I'll say
impacts
wait till the public at large gets their hands on the movie and can go frame by frame analyzing everything.
Yeah, there's so much to do. But more importantly, let us know what you think about Avengers hitting Blu-ray, DVD, digital. What's your favorite Avengers moment? We want to know. Hashtag ODPHEE. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is George Gatton, and you are listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour Entertainment Edition.
Coming back for segment number 3 on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition and talking a little Netflix as we're talking Marvel. Now, it was confirmed that Daredevil Season 3 will be released before year's end.
Yep.
So that being said, we're going to kind of just go into what we're expecting to see from Daredevil Season 3. Now, we know Iron Fist is next to come out on September 7th.
Yep, those god darn so-and-sos.
Now, Pad, why are you mad about that?
It's the same day the Spider-Man PS4 game comes out.
See, yeah, like that is kind of crazy that they're just loading up. But they probably are figuring, okay, after you binge watch Iron Fist, you're going to jump into Spider-Man. Or vice versa, when you beat Spider-Man, you're going to jump into Iron Fist.
I'm guessing you're going to want to do Iron Fist before you do Spider-Man, just going on a hunch.
You probably would. I mean, I guess. I mean,
just in terms of time's sake, like how long it's going to take you to beat the game versus how long it takes you to watch Iron Fist.
And there's going to be so much to see from Iron Fist that it's going to lead into Daredevil, I think. Because they've already confirmed that Typhoid Mary is going to be introduced in Iron Fist 2.
Yep.
And if you know anything about that character, she is heavily tied into Daredevil.
Yep.
And what I'm guessing is from where we left off with Daredevil after the Defender series, where I believe his mother, who is the nun that rescues him after the fallout from the final battle with the hand, so to speak.
If memory serves, the building got dropped on him.
That they're going to go into the Born Again storyline.
Right. Now, this is one I know you've referenced to me several times.
Yes. If you want to talk about, for example, the Dark Knight story for Batman is always considered one of the greatest Batman stories I've ever told.
Yeah.
Born Again is arguably Daredevil's greatest story.
Sure.
And it just goes into how the Kingpin breaks him down on every single level and destroys his life, and yet Matt Murdock finds a way to redeem himself and ultimately come back. And it's a fascinating story. Like, I can't do enough justice. Go find the trade paperback at your local comic book shop or wherever you find comics online and read it. It's worth it.
I hope this is the case, that they do go with it, because if it means we get more Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin in our lives, I'm okay with that.
I'm 100% banking he's going to be in the series.
Probably.
For this. I mean, for no other reason that him as the Kingpin has been such a fantastic casting.
Oh, God, yeah.
That if you're going to do Born Again, obviously you have to have the Kingpin in. And you should have him in if you're not going to have him in Punisher or any of the other MCU movies yet.
Right.
I'm still holding out hope that they're going to work out a deal for him to make a Spider-Man cameo.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Because if you know the Kingpin, you know he's tied into way more heroes than just Daredevil.
Right.
But as Batman has the Joker, Daredevil has the Kingpin. Going in with that, I definitely want to see Bullseye involved.
Okay.
I know it's been heavily rumored, that Bullseye is going to be in Daredevil season 3.
So are we talking heavily rumored to the point where it's like wink, wink, nudge, nudge?
Almost. I mean, there's been no official confirmation. I don't think you would ever find any.
Probably
get
not.
leaked because Marvel does not reveal that much. My guess, and another one of the unofficial ODPH guesses, I'm banking that they're going to have a panel at New York Comic Con.
More than likely.
And I'm banking we're going to find out who is Bullseye at said panel.
I was to say, because there probably won't be an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. panel. Of course, we don't know yet, but as it looks right now, there probably won't be. Ergo, Marvel would need something else to fill for their TV stuff, and I know they've done a Netflix stuff the last couple of years with their Marvel Netflix series, so it would make sense to see something for Daredevil.
I think we're going to see at NYCC, we're definitely going to see a Netflix panel, and I definitely say it's going to be Daredevil season 3.
I'm so hoping so.
I'm almost banking on it. And I think we're also going to see something for Marvel TV, and I mean this whether it's Cloak and Dagger,
right?
Whether it's going to be an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. send-off, because if you know anything about Marvel Comic-Con, New York City Comic-Con, and Marvel, that is where Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was first announced.
Right.
So if this is going to be the last season, and we are assuming, but never say never.
Right.
Because it's comics, so you never know.
Mm-hmm.
This will either be the final farewell to the fans and do like maybe how they did a 10-year retrospective of Marvel Studios.
Sure.
This could be a retrospective of the series. I wouldn't doubt seeing that at NYCC.
I could see them doing that. Something like, you've got, some of the directors and actors and actresses from over the years and like a gag reel of stuff you've never seen. Mm-hmm. It's just stuff they go through the old file list on their computers or the hard drive or whatever. And they're like, oh, hey, let's just throw something together for the fans.
Yeah, because the one thing about the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan base is they're very loyal.
Yes.
And they will follow the show wherever it's going to air. Now, I know that there's been a lot more talk lately about Disney's streaming service. And I apologize, we're going to jump around a little bit here. With Disney's streaming service, I wouldn't doubt you see Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. maybe make its way over there.
That would probably be my guess.
And I definitely think that you're going to see a new project on ABC from Marvel in I wouldn't say the fall of 2019, but maybe 2020.
Yeah. The general vibe I get is both Marvel and ABC want something Marvel related on ABC. It's just a matter of they got to figure out what.
Mm-hmm. And I think obviously with Cloak and Dagger being such a surprise hit for Freeform, I think that they definitely have shown the market's there for it still.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is still doing good ratings. It's not blockbuster.
It's not Walking Dead numbers, but
right. But it holds its own, and I always hear that it does well on your DVR playbacks.
Oh, yeah.
So that being said, I wouldn't doubt that maybe we'll hear something about a project in the works. I'm even going to go out on a limb and say we might have a Miss Marvel.
Oh, okay.
Show. I just have this odd feeling. I have not heard anything, but I'm just thinking what hero is rightfully deserving of their own show. And Miss Marvel, I definitely think could work on TV.
Yeah.
And I think I would be more than stoked to see it.
Oh, yeah.
So going in with that idea, I think that maybe we'll see something there. But who's to say I'm right? Who's to say I'm wrong?
Right.
The only thing I'm certain about is I think we're definitely going to see something with Daredevil. I think it's going to be Born Again. If you know anything about that storyline, it's going to be the quintessential Daredevil season.
I'll say it's going to be the season that's almost impossible to top.
Mm-hmm. Oh, without question. Without question, if it's done right, which I know it will, because we've talked about it on the shows before. When you take a classic storyline, you need to deliver. Mm-hmm. And I know with Born Again, this is the definitive Daredevil story.
Right.
This is going to have so much writing on it if this is where they go with it, which I am almost assuming they are. Mm-hmm. They're going to make some tweaks here and there because I don't believe Typhoid Mary was in Born Again, if I'm not mistaken. Bullseye was, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
I'll say there are some obvious changes whenever you get with adapting these comic lines because rights for certain characters aren't with certain studios, and so you got to make adjustments, and plus just for storytelling's sake, stuff has to get cut. So I mean, if they make some changes to what is the classic story, okay.
Yeah, as long as it pans out. I mean, I don't mind when they do radical changes, so to speak, as long as the story and the acting is good.
Right.
I have no issue with that. And with Born Again, like I said, just the systematic breakdown of Matt Murdock by Wilson Fisk, and they teased it enough.
Right.
When they had the jail scene and he was like screaming about he wants to get Foggy Nelson and Matt Murdock. That moment, I was like, they're doing Born Again. Mm-hmm. And to see how he's going to break them on every aspect, it's going to be fascinating. You're going to see some great acting. Charlie Cox does an amazing job as Matt Murdock.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just to see him sink his teeth into the subject material is going to be epic. I am just so trying to figure out who they're going to get for Bullseye.
It'd be something. I get the feeling it'll probably be somebody that it's a name you recognize, but it won't be like a triple A-list actor.
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, there's so much possibilities they could go with it. I don't even have like a great casting for it.
Sure.
I know it probably won't be Colin Farrell because I don't think they're going to touch anything relating to the Ben Affleck movie.
Oh, God, no.
But you're going to see somebody that's going to really be that villain that they talk on the screen. I don't even want to say antagonist because Bullseye is just pure evil.
Sure.
And just to see where they're going to let him go if they do him right on the show. I mean, like I say, I would start saying goodbye to certain characters.
So let me throw a name out there because you bring up pure evil, and this actor for me immediately jumped to mind as somebody who can play a real son of a you-know-what and a real guy with a mean streak. Jason Statham.
I'll
say that's just, for whatever reason, that just popped in my head.
He could, but I don't think they're going to go that route.
Okay.
It's a great guess. I mean, I could definitely see him doing it. But, for me, like, obviously, I was thinking actually Joaquin Phoenix before he signed up for the Joker.
Yeah, okay.
Because you're going to need somebody that's just is going to go there and just show how, like, cold and calculating, but yet just unhinged Bullseye is.
Right.
And, I mean, Phoenix has played a great characters over the years that he could definitely demonstrate that. So, but he's doing the Joker movie. So I think that kind of that rules him out. Honestly, that's going to be a good question. We might have to throw this to the Instagram and the Twitter to think who would be perfect casting for Bullseye. Because I'll be honest, I don't know. That could go so many different routes. Or maybe, I'll throw you a crazy one.
Sure.
How about Andrew Lincoln?
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Just complete left field after playing Rick Grimes for so long.
Get him and Punisher on screen.
You want to try something different?
Get him and Punisher on screen together?
I know.
A little reunion?
I'm just going to throw some just crazy casting out there.
Lincoln, I think, would be cool.
Yeah, it'd just be cool to see him doing something else, just completely opposite of Rick Grimes.
Or, since you're bringing up Walking Dead characters, I'm forgetting the actor's name, but the gentleman who played the governor.
Oh, David Morrissey?
Yes. He could do it. He's played an unhinged, evil, you-know-what.
Maybe.
He's got it in him.
But there's going to be so much tied into it. Getting back to the story, though, that when Daredevil finally comes out, and my guess, you'll see that probably October, November range.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go make an early prediction. It's going to be the series you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that does seem to be the formula Netflix follows with their Marvel shows. You get one beginning of the year, one kind of the middle part of the year, one towards the end of the year.
And the one thing that'll be really interesting, too, is if Iron Fist ends the way I think it's going to end, where you have Danny Rand saying, "This is my city."
Right.
You already had that happen with Luke Cage.
Mm-hmm.
If Matt Murdock takes down the Kingpin,
there will be an obvious power vacuum.
there's going to be a power vacuum. And if they decide, which I don't know if they would do this, because this is going to be crazy, because you're dealing with the Born Again storyline, and then you go into something Brian Michael Bendis did, where Daredevil became the Kingpin.
Oh, that'd be real cool to see.
You might see something like that happen.
I can see something like that happening simply because for comics, you've seen it over the years, but in terms of movies or TV shows of the comic variety, that's something new. It's something you really haven't seen. You haven't seen a comic book movie where in movie number 1, the hero defeats the bad guy, and then in movie 2, he takes over for the bad guy.
Mm-hmm. There's so many possibilities that can go with this. It's going to be so fascinating to watch. I'm even going to throw another quick fan casting out there.
Okay.
What about Liev Schreiber?
Ooh.
As Bullseye?
Ooh. That'd be interesting.
We're going to throw it out there. So hit us up on the Twitter, ODPHEE hashtag. Who do you want to see as Bullseye for Daredevil Season 3? Season 3, we know we're going to see in 2018. What's your thoughts on that? We want to know. Hashtag ODPHEE. Let us know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Rob Kacharik from the band 607, Autopilot Off, and Walking Distance, and you're listening to ODPH.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition with those one-shots. Pat, why don't you start us off?
More comics, because boy oh boy, Marvel Comics doesn't fail to disappoint again.
Break it down.
Amazing Spider-Man number 3 came out, and they continued to flesh out what they teased you with at the end of the second issue, where you had Spider-Man and Peter Parker staring at each other face to face. How is this happening? What in the world is going on? Spoilers ahead.
Okay.
So what happens in the issue is it calls back to an incident from issue number 2 where it's the particle, whatever this thing is called. It's the thing that gave the spider powers that gave him powers. He came into contact with it, and the whole reason Doc Connors has been using it is he wants to separate the Croc from himself. He wants to become normal again. He wants a normal life. Well, come to find out, while Doc Connors has been doing preliminary lab tests trying to figure out if it works, we've got a living proof. Because as Peter reveals in the issue, it separated Spider-Man from himself. So there's one point where he, Mary Jane, and some friends are at a bowling alley having fun. They get a news alert alerting them to some trouble in Lower Manhattan. And MJ goes, "Don't you need to go?" And he goes, "No, I don't." So that's when it's revealed that this device separated Spider-Man from Peter Parker, so that no longer is Spider-Man Peter Parker, and Peter Parker is no longer Spider-Man, although they do have the same memories, they do have the same, quirks and habits. You now have Spider-Man's his own person, and Peter's looking at it kind of optimistically that, hey, maybe I can have a normal life now. Maybe I can hold a job for more than 5 months and not get fired after it.
So I hate saying the C word, but is he a clone?
No, I don't think so, because what happens is it's not a clone. It's a literal split of Spider-Man, because there's one panel where Peter goes to kind of try and find out what's different, what's changed. He tries to wall crawl. He can't wall crawl. He's in the lab with Dr. Connors, and they're doing an experiment, and it's successful on a mouse. You've got the one mouse that runs through a maze with no issue, like he's a pro. You've got the other mouse that can't be bothered and doesn't know what he's doing. And there go, Connors is trying to lean on Peter's expertise of, oh, hey, hand me this. Mm-hmm. And Peter has no idea what he's talking about. Connors is talking about some high level scientific, science stuff, and some of it's going over his head. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with this, where, Peter's now no longer Spider-Man, lost his abilities, and it seems like he's lost a little bit of, his intelligence.
Well, anytime you kind of get into, and I hate saying clone involving Spider-Man because it's
been done.
It's been done. Let's hope it stays away. I can't stress enough of how much I hate the clone saga or anything involving it because it was awful.
Right.
It was a nice gimmick way back when, but when they tried bringing back Ben Reilly and said, hey, this is the real Spider-Man, and did all that nonsense with it.
Right.
Okay. Anytime you bring in clones, you're making it messy. And if this is going to be something like, okay, we're separating them and it's going to be somebody else, man.
See, I don't think it's somebody else, simply because Peter started talking about his third grade teacher, and the person knew exactly who it was. He went to do some weird motion that only he would know with like his finger or something. He did the same thing. Same memories, same it's Peter Parker, but it's also Peter Parker.
So yeah, like in a sense, it just sounds like it's genetically cloned.
I don't think so. I think it just, for however they're going to explain this, because I imagine they're going to explain it somehow. He got split, and it's not going the way I thought it was. I thought, because if you remember San Diego Comic-Con, they announced they were doing a Spider-Geddon storyline, which I thought this was going to be kind of the intro or the first seed planted for this, because I thought it was going to be, a Peter Parker or somebody else, a Ben Parker, a whoever from another universe just shows up because of what happens with this device. No, that's looking like it's not the case.
It's going to be really interesting to see. I fully trust the team working on Amazing Spider-Man, so I'm all in about it. I just really, I'm seeing that, and I'm kind of going like, if you're starting to do clones again, this is not the way to go. Albeit, though, Nick Spencer has not let me down on his writing, so I'm willing to go out there. And Ryan Ottley on the book too has been just stellar too. So I can't fault it if they're going to go that way, because I know that anytime you're really digging into the Spider-Man mythos, and like I said, that word clone, anytime that's mentioned, you get the reaction you're getting from me.
Right.
I'm cringing. But I'm willing to let it see where it plays out. And like I said, I think it eventually does lead into Spider-Geddon.
I would imagine so. The other one that was kind of on my radar was issue number 52 of Superman, the Brian Michael Bendis run. Interesting thing going on with this is all of Earth got thrown into the Phantom Zone.
Really?
Yeah, so issue 51, the entire Earth got thrown into the Phantom Zone. Now it's Superman kind of dealing with what in the world is going on? Why are we here? This is a bad scenario. So he has Martian Manhunter, Psychic Link, the entire Justice League up, where it's funny. Batman goes, "This is Batman. Please tell me you have an idea what's going on." And then somebody else in the Justice League goes, "Listen, we recognize your voice. We know it's you." And then you're dealing with the issue of something's going on with the Flash, where he shows up at Superman's Fortress of Solitude, and he starts collapsing and passing out, and something's not quite right. So it'll be interesting to see where they go, where the ramification. I think Flash brings it up at one point. How long can the Earth survive without being near the sun?
Well, they've teetered with that way back when. They did a storyline called The Final Night, and that's when they did a big spoiler alert for that, but this has been already retconned many times.
Sure.
When they were doing a redeeming story for Hal Jordan, and how there was something destroying the sun, and he wound up saving the day with it. This is during the whole post Superman, Death of Superman storyline.
Sure. Funny you bring that up. Noticeably absent from Earth being in the Phantom Zone, Green Lantern. Somebody brings up, they go, "Where's Green Lantern? Has anybody seen Green Lantern?" Not there.
That might get explained in the Grant Morrison run.
I would imagine.
I mean, I know that they're tying up the current run of Green Lantern and waiting for whenever Grant's book is going to drop this year. So maybe that has something to do with it. That would be my only guess. But it's hard to say.
I'm real interested to see where they go with it, though, simply because you have now you've got an entire other dimension full of people who got an axe to grind against Superman, but then you've got all of Superman's friends who are now going to get caught in the crosshairs.
It's going to be interesting. I know with Bendis, I mean, they gave him no bigger book than Superman. I don't know how you can get any bigger than that. And he's going to really sink his teeth into it. And it's going to be really fun to read.
Yes.
So far, it's been really good. The Man of Steel run has been great. But I'm really interested in seeing what he's going to do when they finally just say, okay, go crazy.
Right.
Because you're going to see some really good Superman stories, which for me has always been kind of a tough thing. Because I like Superman, but you need antagonists they're going to match up with him.
Right.
And after Luthor, Brainiac, Doomsday, you could say Darkseid.
Yeah.
Who else is there?
Yeah.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all pans out. I'm super excited about it. Speaking of DC Comics, now this one kind of caught me off guard because I caught the cover for the issue DC Nation coming up. It's one of the publications they put out, just kind of like promo stuff on projects they have coming out.
Yep.
And on the cover, they have something saying in 21 days, one of these characters dies.
Okay.
So I'm looking at it, and it's Green Lantern Kyle Rayner,
Okay.
Cyborg, Damian Wayne,
Ooh.
Harley Quinn, Roy Harper, and Booster Gold.
Okay.
Now, my first instinct for this was this is going to tie into Heroes in Crisis.
Right.
Because we know so far that Harley Quinn and Booster Gold have a big role to play in it.
Yep.
Now, would they make them the character that gets, killed in Heroes in Crisis that caused the whole thing? I would say no.
I could see it, but it wouldn't have that big of an impact.
It would and it wouldn't. If it's Harley Quinn because of her popularity,
Yes.
But like I said, she's one of the most popular characters in the DCU.
Yep.
I think she's pretty much untouchable right now.
Yeah.
We look at the rest of the people on that picture. Damian Wayne was already killed off. I don't think they would go down that road just yet for his character, so I think he's safe. Cyborg, I think, is also safe. He's going to be leading the new Justice League Odyssey team.
Yep.
So I think he's pretty much untouchable. Booster Gold and Harley Quinn, okay, we're looking at that. All right, well, they're going to be the major characters unless they're doing like a flashback sequence for Booster.
Right.
I think that those two are safe for Heroes in Crisis. So that leaves Roy Harper and Kyle Rayner.
Right.
I got to say, if I got to choose somebody on there, it's going to be Roy Harper.
I'm say probably some boneheaded Russian judgment move.
Maybe. I mean, it all depends on how the storyline plays out. If it's tying in with that, it could just been somebody drew all those characters together and they're not, coinciding in that story.
Right.
I am just making another unofficial guess that they are tied into Heroes in Crisis.
That would be a safe guess, I think.
Just seeing Booster and Harley Quinn on the same page, I was like, well, this might tie into it. And this would make some sense. Albeit, though, I can't see them killing off Kyle Rayner again because if memory serves me right, I thought they did something like this a while back. I want to say involving the Omega Men.
Right.
Now, don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure about that.
Right.
So I got to say it's got to be even more neat. It's Roy Harper.
Well, saying that, I think the other one we got to mention, we'd be remiss to mention, was the announcement of the Uncanny X-Men line that's coming out in December and what they're going to do with that. Of course, they announced coming out in December, they're going to be bringing out the Uncanny X-Men line from Marvel, and it'll be X-Men Disassembled, which it's playing heavily off of the Avengers Disassembled. For those of you who remember that storyline, there were certain members that died. I think you're going to see the same thing with X-Men here.
It would be very interesting to see. I definitely want to see where they play it. I know that now, obviously, with the Fantastic Four, who just had their reboot come out, they're starting to bring major prominence back to the franchises that are coming back from Fox. So this one I'm definitely interested to see, and if they're going to reassemble the team, one thing I wouldn't mind, albeit though I think at this stage you can't do it, is streamline the team.
Yeah.
Cut it down so you have like one book and you just focus on that.
Right, you have a rotating cast of characters. Goes, oh, darn it, so-and-so's got homework to do for a class.
Yeah, I definitely would like to see that. I don't know if you can see that with obviously just how big that team is.
Right.
Because there's just so much that's tied into it that it's just like, I just don't know if you can at this stage. I think that they need to because, I mean, albeit though in the 90s when there was a X-Book, multiple ones out, that you had that, freedom to kind of write that, okay, all these teams were involved.
Sure.
But then you get to like the stage where like there's so many different versions of the X-Men.
Right.
And they're all sharing characters. It's just like, I think if they cleaned it up a little bit, I think it would really help and just kind of give it almost like a back to basics feel.
Right.
So with that being said, I think that who would you put on that team, and depending on where you want to go with it, you really have got a lot of flexibility.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know exactly where you go with it. But like I said, I think that it would make a lot more sense to streamline them and take it down to like 5 guys.
Sure.
Or 5 people, should I say, rather.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that. Because I think Jean Grey you got to put back on the team no matter what.
Yeah.
I would imagine you're going to put Wolverine back on the team.
Yep.
That now that the real one is back, not Old Man Logan.
I'll say the general feeling I get with the team is if they do kind of reassemble the team or what have you, it's going to be a majority of characters you're familiar with. So that way they can bring in the old school fans going, hey, listen, we know we've messed up a little bit in recent history here, but we're going to do it right. So you bring in the old school fans with, hey, look, here's Jean Grey and here's Wolverine and here's, these people. But then you bring in some newer characters, go, ooh, I never would have considered that. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, however this is going to pan out, I'm definitely intrigued by it. Mm-hmm. And usually when the X-Men did big events, it's always been a huge thing.
Yeah.
So to see where they go and if this results in maybe, 2 teams and then you have your splinter groups out there, like X Factor, a new X-Force, something like that.
Sure.
Okay, I buy into that. But I'm really interested to see where they're going to go with that, especially now that they're coming back to Marvel for the movies. So you're going to see some, MCU, maybe tie-ins down the road and kind of see where they go. Like the Fantastic Four book that just came out with Dan Slott and Sarah Pichelli working on it just came out, and they did some little tweaks here and there with the characters.
Sure.
And I think you might see some of that in the new movies when they come out.
Sure.
I would imagine you're going to see that in.
I'll say you definitely, when the new movies come out, you got to get the taste of the old ones out.
Yeah. And I think that for them, a clean slate to start over would work well in comics and in the movies.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with X-Men, disassembled. It's going to be fun to read, though.
Oh, absolutely. I've got it circled.
I'm super excited for it. That's all we got for this week for the ODPH Entertainment Edition. So for Padawan J,
thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour Entertainment Edition. See you next time.